This is the technology guide video. I just want to give you a little bit of show and tell regarding pages 2 through 6 of that handout. I would encourage you to have that handout in front of you as I go through this. Of course, the first thing you have to do is go through the directions on page 1 that explain how to register for Mymathlab. Once you've taken care of that, at the top of page 2 gives you the web address that you go to on a regular basis. This page, or something that looks very much like it, will come up. And in order to get in, again, after you've registered, you would click Sign In. You would type in the username and password that you created during the registration process. And then you'll see a box like this with our class name, Math 120 Hybrid, Spring 2017. Click that, and that takes you into the course. The rest of page 2 of the handout contains an explanation of these buttons that you see over here on the left side, and I would encourage you to read through those carefully. I'll point out a couple of them. The class handouts button is where I'm posting the handouts that we use in class. Most of them will end up being in this section in the lesson handout area. So that's a good reference if you have to miss class. This link here, the online lesson videos, that's where I'll be posting the videos that you need to watch during the online portion of the class that takes the place of meeting on Fridays. For example, here's all the ones already in there for section 1.2. A little further down, the textbook resources area, make sure and play around with this. You've got the entire copy of the textbook in here. You've also got some helps with your graphing calculator. You can search the multimedia library for videos and animations, PowerPoints related to any section of the book. So that's a good resource. The study plan is a place that you can go for unlimited practice. If you go into it and choose all chapters, you can open up any chapter you want, go to any section you want, and begin working problems. The work that you do here isn't part of your grade, so it's simply a good place to practice if you're feeling like you need some extra help. Let's go to page 3 of the handout. And this is where the focus turns to the online homework. So let me click on the homework button. You've got a listing of all the homework assignments for the semester. I'll go to the very first one. And to begin, you would just click on question 1. Now I'm going to actually go to question 14 for the sake of this video. This I thought would be a fairly simple problem to demonstrate on. Make sure you read through all of those detailed instructions on pages 3 and 4. Letter A points out the fact that you don't have to do all of the homework in one sitting. If you do a few problems, you need to stop, just save your work here in the upper right corner, and when you come back, it'll be just as you left it. Make sure and read through parts B and C on page 3, which talk about the due date information. You want to make sure you're clear on that. Letter D encourages you, even though you're doing the homework online, please work it out on paper. Please keep a paper record for yourself so that you can use that to study for. In fact, one option you have, letter E talks about, in this question help area, you can go there, you can choose print, and you could print the entire homework assignment if you wanted to. It'll come out on paper. You could work all the problems on paper and then go back and type in the answers for credit. If you do that, just make sure and hit save immediately after printing so that the numbers in the problems stay the same. There are always lots of instructions in these problems. Make sure you read all of those carefully. The blue instructions often are very specific about how they want your answer. Let's try to answer this question. When I put the cursor in the box, a keypad pops up at the bottom containing math symbols I may need to use: fractions, mixed numbers, exponents, square roots, etc. There's a more button if what you're looking for isn't there. I don't think I need any for this particular problem. I'm just typing on the keypad. Now let's miss the problem on purpose. I'm going to hit check answer. And of course it tells me this is incorrect. It gives me kind of a hint. So maybe I go in and I think that I can fix it now. And I think this is the right answer. It's going to give you a couple of tries to get the problem right. If you use up the tries and you still haven't gotten it, it'll tell you what the correct answer is. Now notice the red X means you haven't gotten credit for this problem yet. Don't stop. What you want to do, don't hit next question, hit similar question. It will refresh the problem for you, different numbers, different letters maybe, and give you another opportunity. If you need help with the problem, you can go to the help area. You can click help me solve this. You can click what's probably better, view an example for a step-by-step example of how to work the problem. Sometimes you'll notice that there's an instructor tip that I have written you that gives you some additional information about the problem, so you want to be aware of that. When you do finally figure out how to work the problem, you'll type it in, hit check answer, and get the very positive good job feedback. Even here, you may feel unconfident. You may feel that you need some more practice. So instead of clicking next question, if you wanted to, you could click on similar question again and practice some more. This isn't going to change your credit. You have credit for this problem. You can work each problem as many times as you like with different numbers until you feel confident. To move to the next problem, you could hit this arrow up at the top. You can also go to this middle section and really choose whatever question you would like. We've reached the middle of page 4 now in terms of going over the information. Part M talks about if you could print out a problem that you want me to work in class. That would certainly be helpful. And then part N talks about how you can review your work later. Let me go ahead and close the homework assignment, go back to the main menu. The Gradebook button is a place where you can go, you can see every assignment you've ever worked, you can see what your scores are, you can even go into the assignments and look at some of the problems. Just keep in mind that you cannot change a score from the Gradebook. If you want to get credit for your work, you have to be doing it through the homework button. The box in the middle of page 4 talks about occasional software glitches. The bottom line is you need to find a way to get the homework done. You can always come to campus if you need to and use the computers in the LRC or in the library if yours at home doesn't seem to be working right. There are some instructions at the bottom of page 4 about using Mymathlab at home. Please read through those. You may need to go to the course home area and click on the browser check, which is right here. Your computer needs to be set up to run Mymathlab, so just follow the directions there. There's a couple of help numbers you can call if you run into any trouble. The box at the bottom of page 4 mentions the fact that very occasionally Mymathlab goes down, but there's a back door that can still get you into the online homework. And so you may want to make a note of that somewhere. The top of page 5 in your handout talks about taking quizzes in Mymathlab. When that happens, you'll go here to the quizzes button. And the very first one that you've got here is a quiz on the syllabus, actually. You choose it, you say that you're ready to start, and here's an instructor tip that you might want to read through. The difference here is the computer is not going to give you any of the right answers until you submit the quiz. Do not hit the Submit Quiz button until you are all done. That counts as a full attempt on the quiz. There's no way to reverse that. So you would simply go through answering the questions. You can use the arrows at the bottom or the top to go from question to question, or the section in the middle to move from question to question. When you think you're all done, then you submit the quiz and you will get a score and that score stands. All right, the quizzes are set up for you to take them 2 attempts at most. So if you take it once and you're unhappy with your score, make sure that you make that second attempt count. It is the only other one you've got. The middle of page 5 talks about participation quizzes. You probably noticed that in the screen before. The first one is in there. Now, these are simply you proving that you participated in the online office hour. In order to do a participation quiz, you're going to need a password, and the password will be given out by me during that online office hour. Once you enter the password, the format of the quiz will be just like the other quizzes. These participation quizzes just have one question. Again, you can take the quiz twice. Make sure that you get the score you want on that second try. All you have is 2 tries. We talked about the online videos earlier, and so let's conclude this by looking at page 6, the discussion board posts. There's a link there on the left where you can go. Remember that each online assignment has some practice problems where you'll be choosing one and posting the full solution on the discussion board. You would simply choose the board you want to do. This one is currently selected at post number 1. Read through all the directions that are given there. When you're ready to answer, you would hit respond at the bottom. And in the subject line, you'll put the problem number. Maybe you choose to do problem 5B. In terms of typing in the math, really your best bet is to use the equation software that is built in here. If you choose this x squared, you'll get this new window. You'll say create a new equation. You can give it a whatever name you want. That doesn't really matter. And then you've got all these great templates that you can use for typing in equations. Maybe maybe my problem was to solve 3x minus 4 equals 6. And so I can type that in. You just type the whole thing in. And then I want to show that I'm adding 4 to both sides. And that gives me 3x equals 10. And then I want to make a division bar there and a division bar there to show that I'm dividing both sides by 3. And so my final answer, x equals, to make it look nice, I'll choose the fraction button, 10 and 3 on the bottom. Final answer, x equals 10/3. I'll say save and insert. And the problem is now there, posted on the discussion board. If you would prefer, instead of doing the typing like that, you could try to attach a file or picture of your work using this button here. Whichever way you go, when you're done, you simply hit post, and that will be the end. And then I'll be able to see what you did. Hopefully this video was helpful. Of course, the main thing you need to do now is to get to work.